Hi, I'm Panda, and this is an inside look into the making of my debut album, Pandemonium. The story behind the lyrics for Lost Kid is, it's pretty deep. It's probably the most personal song on the album. It talks about a side of me that I feel I had lost, that I feel I had lost as I got older and adult life hit, and just like that fun, like kind of side of me, that kid that felt like he was unstoppable and could rule the world if he wanted to. I felt like I had lost. So that's where the lyrics come from. I sat and I had already built the track, and I just thought about that idea of the kid that is now gone. I just thought, what do I want to come across with? What message do I want to get to the listeners about that conversation between my current self and my old self? So I spent a lot of time on making sure the lyrics conveyed that older side of me as well as myself now. Favorite line from the song? I like the line where, I mean, all of it's cool, but the line where I talk about cartoons and punching bags. I used to want to be a boxer because everyone grew up watching Manny Pacquiao in a Filipino household. So everything in that line talking about what I was and what I wanted as a kid is a pretty cool line that I wanted to include for sure. So I started with a sample I had found off Looperman. I was just hunting. Normally I look for inspiration on Looperman rather than directly pull a sample. I did that a few times on the album because these sounds were just great, and I knew I could build something off of. So here's the original one. A lot of reverb, a lot of fullness. I made it a little bit drier on the actual version. Found the folk sound you hear on the record, and I had cut it and built it, and it just had that kind of like soulfulness that I felt that the concept of Lost Kid needed. Some percussion to begin. The kick comes in midway on my first verse.
Fake it, but there he go, there he go. Is he low? Where he from? He's from living.
It's really simple. It's different than Better. It's got a lot less stuff going on.
Bliss, where he hides and didn't do it.
I chose to keep it simple.
Up. I'm so proud of him, but she's out of here. Rule all out it.
Just before what I'd call a chorus, I have an 808 that comes in.
Yeah, don't lost, and that's a fact. Tell me, can you hear the bleak sounds of fear in the nighttime? Something warm on confession, but soul from life lies. Tells a story of beauty within a gold mine. How it's broken, he broken, baby's broken tonight.
And I just built around it and made sure that it wasn't so much about the production, and it was more of just like a part of the puzzle when it comes to the message I was trying to give about that kid I once knew.
Solely cause I hated news, created blues amongst the everlasting from a pain.
Super simple. I have an extra hi-hat in the second verse.
Walking into this, never
And then
know.
towards the end here, I have 3 native instruments out of Logic, all kind of lullaby sounding, to reference back to just the fact that I'm talking to an older version of myself, the kid theme.
I don't know what he had. Hear the sweet sound.
Brought back the 808 at the end.
Something
It's really simple.
attention, but cold from outside. Innocent in nature.
Then I got this YouTube sample. It's this
What do you want to
video.
be when you grow up? I want to be.
It's like a bunch of kids getting interviewed on what they want to do when they're older, which just all fits the theme. It's really simple on Lost Kids. It was definitely a personal song, and I think it was hardest to write when it comes to just like, I kind of have to put myself in that space to really get the best lyrics out of me. And so that whole conversation about losing myself is a very tough one. So I mean, just the overall concept and tackling it is probably the biggest difficulty when it comes to Lost Kid. So with What Do I Desire, it was a part of my head where there's a lot of, because at this part of my life, there's a lot of self-doubt about, do I want to do this? Do I really want to chase this? Is this really what I want? And I think this song for me was kind of like the best way to paint the entire story when it comes to my head and talking about that and coming to the realization that I do want to do this for real is that song. That song is the epitome of that statement and me telling myself, this is what I want to do, and this is why. And this is the hardships I'm going to go through, and these are the problems I'm going to have to deal with what I want. But because of this or that, it is worth it that I go ahead and chase this. Writing these lyrics came out pretty fast, even though it's the most lyrics on one song in the album, because these are already like kind of like statements or things that were inside of me. I didn't have to go through anything to conjure it up or anything like that. I just was outright saying what I feel, and after talking to myself over the span of time about, do I want to do this, just having that answer and being confident with it and knowing why made it really easy to get the lyrics out. It was writing right over the track. I kind of wrote with the track as I built it. It is one big crescendo as a song. It starts at the lowest point of the overbeat and it'll end at the highest. And so lyrically, rhythmically, and energy-wise, I built the lyrics to fit that kind of trajectory the song takes. I listened to a philosopher, Alan Watts, a lot. He's actually in the beginning section where it's got like chopped up bits of his speech about wanting to do what you want to do regardless of money, regardless if it's stable or like these just like social concepts of like, oh, you gotta go to college and do this and follow the conveyor belt of society. And Alan was talking about how you're not gonna really fulfill anything within yourself. You're not gonna live a fruitful life if you're not doing what it is that you actually wanna do. And so that in combination with that conversation with myself was the inspiration behind why I needed this song to go on the album. My favorite line, so I built all the lyrics and I made sure every single line had meaning and contributed to that idea of talking about that this is what I want to do. With the very last line being the line I probably spent the most time on, and it was, fate if it is, the reason I die, to find out the killer was my desires. Fate if it is me saying that if this is what I'm gonna have to do, and if it even brings me to death, like a very a hyperbolic way of saying it, to find out the killer was my desires, just to know that at least what I died doing was the thing I want to do and the thing I love doing. So that line is definitely the biggest one there. The production process is really cool. What Do I Desire is different than anything I've ever made. I tried to take a different approach to it. When it came to production, it starts with Alan and different sound effects and just his part of it, and it just grows and grows. What Do I Desire? It's just adding percussion as the track goes on. You can see I build more and more track layers rhythmically until the end right here, and I got the most stuff going on. But we start with Alan Watts.
What would you like, money? How would you really enjoy it?
Just kind of chopped up and put in a certain way. I fixed it so he says certain things in a certain pattern. Used Logic's native piano for this, but I tried to do some EQing to make it sound more clicky, sound like an upright piano.
Wanted to race, wanted to chase. When it's the way, wanted to play.
And there's never a true kick. It's just the 808 on A and a C natural that go back and forth.
I think today, but now I wait for one time. for my time, for all times to work mine.
But that 808 and that piano go the whole time. And once the sound is added, it stays until the end of the track. Every 4 measures-ish, add another sound. My second verse, it's just the passion comes out, and it just kind of turns into like the madness behind myself and me wanting to do this, because it is a crazy thing that I want to do, this whole music scene. Just that energy I wanted to present in the track and with myself, like all of that just being one piece that grows and grows and grows until the ending of the track. Once I start the second verse, everything comes back in, and it's just a straight ride to the ending from there.
This vision controls me and everything. You know what it's like to leave everything.
I try to add it in a like not normal order. Like I made it come in like entrances for the different sounds where I try to put them in spots you wouldn't expect. We take out piano and myself real quick. All of that is just accompanying me in the piano. Gets busier and busier as I get busier vocally.
But as measures and lines, make it the way to the colorful side. And I take it and break it if only I tried. These are created to conquer my life, not faded, but it is the reason I died. To find out the killer was my desires.
Gotcha. And I have my good old sound here. You know it's a track that I did if you hear this in it. Yep. That is the best sound you're ever gonna hear. It's gonna be in all of my songs. And then I have Alan Red at the end. What do I desire? It's really simple, but there's just try to make it busy, and I wanted it to build. What Do I Desire was definitely the hardest song I've written so far in terms of performance for the verses and stuff like that. Like the second verse is the hardest one I've ever written. It has almost no room for breathing, and it's a mouthful, and it kind of, like I said, it just grows. So I'm at one point and it's just gonna get harder and harder from that point on in the verse. So that alongside with I wanted to make it grow, and I wanted to make it huge at the end. So the endurance I had to practice with myself in order to make this song work was definitely the difficulty. What Do I Desire was the first song, like the earliest song in the making of the album that made the cut into the album that released. There was a lot of songs that I made with intention of it being on the album, and as I grew, those songs became trash, and I saw this one as the first one pretty early on that I wanted to make the cut because of its message on what I want to do. Thank you so much for watching this episode in the making of my debut album, Pandemonium. Stay tuned for the next one.